This is the #1 romance film, praised as an eternal classic. When love collides with a life and death decision, how would you choose? The Titanic, known as the unsinkable dream ship, welcomes Jack, a free-spirited young drifter who makes a living as a wandering painter. He wins his ticket onto the grand ship through a card game and boards at the very last moment. The blessing of good luck fills him with excitement, and he firmly believes his destiny will change because of this. Rose is a stunning young heiress adored by everyone on the surface, yet burdened by the fate of her family and unable to decide even her own marriage. Jack and Rose first meet on the deck of the Titanic. Under the charming golden sunlight, Jack sees the beautiful Rose. She is so dazzling and radiant that even though their identities and status are worlds apart, Jack still falls for her instantly. Rose feels out of place in the so-called upper class. She has long grown tired of the false and pretentious noble life. She cannot even decide the most important love and marriage of her life. The long-suppressed Rose finally breaks down. She trembles as she climbs over the rail, ready to end her life. But at the very moment she is about to jump, Jack appears just in time.
I'm involved now. You let go and I'm gonna have to jump in there after you.
Jack does not look like he is joking, as he seriously begins removing his coat and loosening his shoes. The night sky that evening holds not a single visible star, yet Jack's deep eyes shine like distant starlight. But as Rose steps over the rail, she almost slips and falls into the sea. Jack uses all his strength to pull her back up. Her fiancé Cal rushes over and, as repayment, invites Jack to the next day's dinner. To calm Rose, Cal gives her the one thing she never wants to see again: the heart of the ocean. To Rose, it symbolizes the rigid power and old traditions of her family. The next day, Rose finds Jack to express her gratitude. The two open their hearts to each other. Jack shares his poor upbringing and his wandering life. His stories fascinate Rose as she listens. Jack is a traveling painter, and he does not have the pretentious manners of the upper class. Rose envies Jack's free life. On the deck at dusk, Rose asks Jack why she cannot live as freely as he does. Jack begins teaching her his unique skills. This makes Rose's mother break her composure on the spot as she walks by. Her mother looks at Jack with guarded eyes, as if watching a dangerous wild animal. Dinner is about to begin, and a kind noblewoman lends Jack her son's formal clothes. Jack is at the height of his youthful charm, and even you would not dare compete with such brilliance. Jack's star-like eyes leave Rose completely captivated. Although her feelings surge like a rising tide, the barrier between them is far more complicated than a climb from third class to first class.
Mr. Dawson is joining us from the third class. He was of some assistance to my fiancée.
And where exactly do you live, Mr. Dawson?
Well, right now my address is the RMS Titanic. After that, I'm on God's good humor.
And how is it you have means to travel?
I work my way from place to place, tramp steamers and such. But I won my ticket on Titanic here at a lucky-handed poker. A very lucky hand.
Facing the sarcasm at the table, Jack uses humor and sincerity to earn everyone's respect. After dinner, Jack leaves a note for Rose. The real party is in the lively and crowded third-class area. This is a passion Rose has never experienced before. It is full of the warmth and energy of real life. It is far better than the vanity and mutual flattery in first class. This almost heaven-sent man brings Rose into a life she has always dreamed of. After experiencing the pull between reality and freedom, Rose and Jack arrive at the bow of the ship. Jack tells Rose to close her eyes and spread her arms. The glow of the setting sun lights up the clouds above the sea. Time becomes eternal in this moment. This scene becomes a legendary image passed down through generations. Freed from her restraints, Rose becomes unstoppable like a wild horse breaking loose. She brings Jack to her room and reveals herself to him without reservation. She lets Jack complete her portrait and leaves Cal a note. The two later arrive at an old car in the cargo hold. Their rising body heat fogs up the car windows. Afterwards, they go to the deck. Rose says that once the ship docks, she will follow Jack anywhere. This makes the lookout crew secretly envious. But at that moment, the crew's expressions freeze. A massive iceberg appears in front of them.
Hey, stop it!
The gigantic size of the Titanic now becomes its fatal weakness. Even with full effort to correct course, the dream ship still scrapes against the iceberg. Water begins to flood the compartments. The boiler room and cargo hold at the bottom of the ship are instantly submerged. Rose brings Jack to warn her mother, but the love between a poor boy and a rich girl cannot survive in their world. Cal's men place the heart of the ocean into Jack's pocket to frame him. Jack is taken away. The Titanic has only 1 hour before it sinks. The number of lifeboats is far from enough. The nearest rescue ship is 4 hours away. The captain orders women and children onto the lifeboats first. The Titanic keeps sinking as seawater continues to pour in. Even in this life and death moment, Rose's mother is still lost in her privileged world. Rose refuses to board the lifeboat. She feels disappointed in her selfish mother. Jack is trapped in the lower deck and about to be swallowed by rising water. Rose rushes to find him at all cost. Unable to find the key, she grabs a fire axe and breaks the handcuffs with one swing. Meanwhile, on the Titanic's deck, the best and worst of humanity unfold. Some cling to survival, while others face death with generosity. They do not cry out, but face their fate calmly. Even at the end of life, they still hold on to dignity. The captain cannot forgive himself and chooses to go down with the ship. The violinists play music to soothe the crowd, staying loyal to their art despite the chaos. A young mother in third class knows hope is fading like a mirage. She tells beautiful stories to let her children sleep peacefully. An elderly couple holds each other in tears, lying quietly in bed as they await the end. The sailors desperately fire distress flares, yet the faint light vanishes quickly into the darkness. Human beings are fragile before nature. Rose, who escapes the flooding, refuses to leave because she wants to stay with Jack. Seeing the two refusing to separate, Cal lies and says there is another boat, and he will take Jack away. Jack plays along and comforts Rose to board the lifeboat. As the lifeboat slowly descends, Rose looks at Jack's gentle smile, but she feels restless like a frightened deer left behind. Each second feels like a century. At the last moment, Rose loses control and jumps back onto the deck. The two hold each other tightly, choosing to face death together. This completely ignites Cal's anger. The two escape into the lower levels of the ship, and seeing the rising water, Cal has no choice but to give up. The Titanic is now close to its end. When faced with unchangeable death, most people leave behind respect for life in their final acts. Women and children must be saved first. Cal bribes a crewman in hope of securing a place. Another crewman, guilty for accidentally harming a civilian, chooses to end his life. Trying to survive, Cal uses every trick he can and finds a lost girl in a corner. Jack and Rose escape to the place where they first met. By now, the bow has fully sunk, and the stern rises high into the air. Soon, the entire ship sinks completely. The freezing water is so cold that even good swimmers lose strength. Rose is pushed underwater as a floating board sinks, but Jack saves her just in time. Jack finds a wooden board, but its buoyancy can support only one person. He gives Rose the chance to survive.
Winning that ticket, Rose, was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm thankful for that, Rose. You must promise me that you'll survive. That you won't give up. No matter what happens. No matter how hopeless. Promise me now, Rose.
I promise. I will never let go, Jack. I'll never let go.
At the edge of life and death, they share their final promise with trembling voices. Not far away are 20 lifeboats, but only one returns to save people. The sea is silent with no voices left. When the lifeboat's light finally appears, Jack can no longer wake up. He embraces love with his life. Pain fills Rose's eyes as she lets Jack sink into the Atlantic. She promises Jack she will live on. She fights with all her strength in the freezing water to survive. She must reach the lifeboat or be swallowed by endless darkness. Her soul would freeze in the icy Atlantic. Rose struggles with all her might to grab a whistle. She blows it for her love of life. She blows it for her attachment to the world. She blows it for her unchanging love for Jack. After everything settles, the crew record the survivor's information. She takes his name as part of her own. She lives on with Jack's hopes and dreams. 84 years later, the elderly Rose returns to the bow of the Atlantic ship. Everything from the past feels like yesterday. Time has taken her beauty, and the disaster took her beloved. But nothing can take away the memories that replay again and again. Beneath the water lies the resting Titanic. She drops the heart of the ocean into the deep blue sea. It sinks slowly, carrying her longing. The photos at her bedside tell the whole story. To honor Jack's love, Rose gives herself a life full of brilliance. In her dreams as an old woman, she returns to the night that changed her life at 17. Everyone on the Titanic is waiting for her to return, and so is the Jack she deeply loves. This moment transcends time and crosses life and death. May everyone watching the screen find a love that lasts forever.